Okay. Call the January 17th, 2023 Economic Development meeting to order. First item, we've got to adopt the agenda.
I move to adopt the submitted agenda.
Second.
Any questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right, so we had tabled our October 17th, 2022 meeting minutes, and thanks for Catherine for bringing that up, and thanks to staff for going back through and making those corrections. So if it all looks in order, any additional comments or questions on that? And if not, if it looks in order, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And now we approve our November 21, 22 EDA minutes. Any comments, questions, changes on those minutes? If not, I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, item number 5, the EDA candidate interviews.
Thank you, Julie. Dan Butler, who served on the City of East Bethel Economic Development Authority since February 2012, submitted his resignation from the EDA effective October 18, 2022. Mr. Butler served with distinction in his position, and his leadership, business knowledge, and enthusiastic personality will be missed. The city advertised the position and received 4 applications. The applications for the position closed on December 30th, 2022. 2 applicants have since withdrawn their applications as of January the 9th and January the 17th, 2023. The EDA will interview the remaining applicants in alphabetical order. The interview questions will be the same for all applicants. The applicant interview schedule is Suzanne Urkel and Jessica Ullman. After completion of the interviews, each member will vote for a candidate for Mr. Butler's unexpired term and return their ballot to the EDA president to tabulate and announce the results. The recommendation of the appointment will be for a 4-year term that will expire on January 31st, 2027. The new board member recommendation will be forwarded to the City Council for consideration of approval at their January 23rd, 2023 meeting. The following motion will be requested for approval at the conclusion of the interview and any questions the EDA may have. And it's included in your packet and reads, the City of East Bethel Economic Development Authority recommends that the East Bethel City Council appoint blank to the EDA to fill the seat vacated by Dan Butler for a term which will expire on January 31st, 2027. This time we invite Ms. Suzanne Urkel to the podium, and I will ask that Jessica Ullman step outside so we can keep the questions restricted to just the interview.
Welcome. Hello, Suzanne.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you.
You too. So we
Feels
haven't
weird.
talked about, we've got some questions, so we haven't talked about who's going to ask what. We really have no order, so let's just
Start from the top, or?
Oh,
yeah,
well,
absolutely, and then we can just,
Yeah,
any
Tom-
follow-up questions?
or Tom, do you want to start and we'll just go down this way? And
That makes sense. Let's do that. Let's have some order.
Okay. All right, Suzanne. I
Hi.
have the first question. Why are you interested in becoming a member of the East Bethel EDA?
Well, I want to be a part of the process. I speak to a lot of residents, and I would like to be their voice on what they want as far as development. And I find the process very fascinating, and it would be an amazing learning opportunity for me.
Thank you.
So tell us about your strengths and abilities that would enhance a position with the E EDA.
My strengths are I'm a strong networker. I'm involved in one of the Minnesota's largest networking groups of over 100 people, business owners, to include commercial brokers and insurance and bankers and all those kind of people. And I'm great at building relationships with those kind of people. So That's one of my assets. People tend to like me and trust me, and I'm very honest, and I have a strong work ethic, and I believe in doing a lot of research before decisions are made.
Just out of curiosity, what's the networking group that you're involved in?
It's called Absolute Connections. It's a business networking group, and we meet in Brooklyn Park Community Center Wednesday mornings, and I have a lot of side meetings that go along with that, relationship building type meetings.
Yeah. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Suzanne, what issues are you most interested in pursuing or promoting as an EDA member?
Well, as an EDA member, I'm most interested in building positive business environment and building relationships with our current businesses. I don't know that this organization does a lot of that. I know you guys participate a little bit with I don't know how much, with the golf tournament, but there's a lot of other business things that the EDA could do and learn what the businesses really need and want. And I'm also interested in seeking out businesses that residents want to come here. Not just willy-nilly, oh, this business is going to build here. Let's look for things that residents want, retail and interesting stuff, restaurants and that kind of thing.
You realize that we had a long process of business growth and retention outreach to businesses in the city.
Yeah, it was our BRE, business retention and expansion. We
With the-
spent extensive
yeah.
time on that.
I realize that.
Yeah.
We've done extensive interviews with the businesses in the community of what they feel needs to happen to help them. And I'd be curious, how do you think you can convince a private business to come here if they don't want to?
I don't know that I can convince them, but I can seek out the owners of some of these, maybe even smaller businesses. Maybe the big corporate ones don't want to come here, but maybe some of the smaller ones will. I've talked to commercial brokers, and they think businesses should want to come here. So that's as far as I've gotten, though. I haven't really, other than he's trying to get me a contact with an Aldi, but other than that, I haven't really sought out any particular business because I have not been, and it hasn't been an official capacity job of mine.
I mean, what I've heard more than anything else, and it's been an ongoing issue in this community ever since Soderquist closed, is a grocery store. Well, I'm not going to say we as a committee because that's too cumbersome, but Dan Butler went and talked to Bob King, and Bob King was not interested in, I mean, he owns the prime piece of real estate, and he was not interested. And we do have a grocery store coming in. I mean, a lot of people view Quick Trip as a supermarket.
I agree. My husband loves Quick Trips. I agree, and I know a lot of the commercial broker I spoke about told me that because that grocery store owns that prime real estate, they're hesitant to build over where the élevage is due to come in because they think once they do that, then the other grocer will come in and then they will take all their business because they will probably have higher prices, that kind of thing. So, so I know it's tricky, but you know, there's different ways to do different things, and
Thank you.
you can always just keep trying. That's all you can do.
What is your vision of development activities in the city?
Can you elaborate on what you mean?
Um, I think they're just asking for your perspective on ways that the city could develop.
Well, I think the city can develop along the 65 corridor. And I think I don't think we need as much industrial as we do more retail and restaurants and coffee shops and places for people to go with things to do. That's my vision.
Thank you.
Do you feel that growth is necessary to sustain and expand the local economy and tax base in the city? Please explain your answer.
To an extent, I think growth should be managed. I don't think it should come too quickly because I think problems can come with that. East Bethel doesn't really have the infrastructure for some massive growth, so I think it has to be thought out very well and planned out very well.
All right, I have the next question. Are there any local issues that could place you in a conflict of interest situation? For instance, a situation in which you could financially benefit from an EDA action on a specific topic.
No, I don't know any. I don't have any relationships with any businesses that would come here. Personal relationships, no.
Okay, thank you.
All right, it's me. So tell us your views on tax increment financing, or TIF. Do you think it's a tool that the city should implement in gaining new development to our community?
Well, I think it's a case-by-case basis. I think at first when I heard about it, I thought it was a negative thing, but after I learned more about what it entailed, I think it's not a bad thing. I think businesses, if it will entice a business and help a business to expand or come here, I think it's a good thing. And I think a lot of cities do it, so it keeps us competitive.
Can you think of any instance where you wouldn't agree with a TIF package, or what the scenario would be?
You know, maybe if it was some big conglomerate company, you know, like Google,
Yeah,
and
fair enough.
you know, they wouldn't need it. If you know, and I think every organization that allows a company to come here needs to really research that company and that owner and make sure that they are really sound business owners. And I haven't really seen that in some cases. In other cases, I think it's been phenomenal. So that's my opinion.
Thank you.
One of the goals of the EDA is to promote improved internet service in the city. What are your views on this matter, and how do you implement it?
Well, I've been on the council and I have been part of it, and I think the city is doing the right thing the way they went around about the surveys and research, and I would do the same thing that the city has been doing. There are some things that I don't know answers to, like can we get a smaller company to come and do it, you know, that might want the business and not care about some of the I can't even think of the word right now, but I don't know. I can't think of, the words aren't coming to me regarding that. But yeah, I think it's a great idea, and I think everybody out here should have good internet. I know I get really frustrated when my internet is spotty and I'm trying to do a Zoom call or a phone call and it's scratchy and dropping and, yeah, so I think it's a good thing.
And I guess finally, do you have any questions for us, or is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I would like to know, other than what you described, that the interviews of all the businesses, what kinds of things has the EDA done with businesses? Have you done a business expo or anything to promote businesses or anything like that? Business job fairs or anything like that? Has the EDA sponsored anything like that? That's my question.
We participate in a number of marketing events. As you know, am a commercial real estate broker.
Right.
So you know that is typically going to be the source for these deals that come up here. So we participate in the MinCar Expo, which is Minnesota Commercial Association of Realtors. Marketing, most of the cities are there. The Anoka County AC Red is there. In addition to just networking, the Anoka Upriver is an event that the county puts on. I attend every year to be more of a liaison with the brokerage communities. But so talk a little bit about the BR&E program that we had several different. I mean, I think it was a 5-prong approach, and we spent a lot of time on it.
I'm a commercial construction guy. That's what I did. And superintendent for a number of different general contractors in my career. One of the things that is so hard to find now is help, and this is something that's been going on for a while. So we have a structural steel fabricator in East Bethel. Okay, went over there on the BR&E interviews. He said one of the problems he has is he can get welders, but he can't get guys that can read a set of structural drawings. So you have to, you need to have someone that can both think things through and can hold the bead and whatnot. And we put him in contact with the training program that they have down at Anoka Hennepin Tech for right along those lines. And I believe he was able to get a couple of guys. The biggest issue for that was getting people to actually make the commute if they live in the city. Now, if you're getting someone who's driving from Mora and they have been working at Lejeune Steel, which is in South Minneapolis, then it's a no-brainer. I guess that's, I'll throw that out there as an example. When we talked with Shaw Trucking, it was improved internet. And actually, they had taken care of it themselves because when they moved to East Bethel, they couldn't get enough bandwidth. So they have a dedicated signal that goes to a tower, I believe. Basically, when we went around in the BR&E, when anyone had a problem, we followed up on it and we went back. Now that was 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
More than that, I think.
Yeah, at least 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Doug was on the board when we were doing that, so.
Yep.
Yeah. If someone has a problem, we try to find a solution to it. And between when Butler was here and, his experience in the insurance industry, we tried to find a solution. That's all I can say.
And I think lastly too, from an employment standpoint, we hired a consultant. They did a report for us noting the large amount of outward migration of East Bethel residents to other communities to work. So we created the East Bethel
Yes.
Jobs website.
Yes, that's very good, Julie.
And put signs on the highway. Now, that probably needs to get reinvigorated, but that was a big effort. And we pulled in different members, so it wasn't just EDA. We pulled in members of the community who had the same passion for those sort of things and were on these committees, and that's not a bad idea to get that going again.
Yeah, I didn't know you guys did that. That's very
Yeah.
impressive. I'm glad you did that.
Yeah,
I know if
it-
we ever had someone who was wavering about coming in here, and let's say they were looking to build here, and they were looking to build in, I'll be specific, Rogers, because I've built in that community. And I could sit and I could explain for a half an hour why our soils here are, you know, people say you don't want to build on sand. Yeah, you do. Right? I mean, the shack builder says, yeah, you do. Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of things going for us. We have infrastructure in place that can take a lot of growth. Our wastewater treatment plant is not even close to operating at capacity. It's actually it's operating at under capacity at this point in time. Our water capacity is there. We have infrastructure if someone was willing to come here. I'm not sure exactly where we're sitting and being able to get them to tap into a fiber line and get fiber all the way into the business. But if I see now that both the federal government and the state and the city of Blaine are going to do something about Highway 65 down in Blaine. One of the things, if I had a business here, I would be very conscious of is the fact that if you're sending a crew to do work in the city, if you're a subcontractor and you're sending a truck down in the city, they're going to spend a lot of time in a commute. If the traffic gets straightened out, hopefully, if the highway gets straightened out, hopefully that'll straighten out the traffic issues that we have. We've cooperated with Ham Lake on just trying to keep Highway 65 square up in northern Anoka County. So,
Yeah, the overview of the BNRE program, it's actually a program that was developed by the U of M. They essentially kind of advertise it to cities as a program that can be taken advantage of. East Bethel was able to do that, partner with them, and we also partnered with Connexus Energy that sponsored it.
Right, yes.
And it took a massive amount of volunteers between all of the commissions and council and residents that were interested, and the business chamber that volunteered with it. I'd say we had, 50, 75 volunteers.
We did, yeah.
And the U of M developed a long list of questions to interview every business. The interviewers were trained how to interview. It seems silly, but you have to train so you actually you don't project your own words onto that person, that they give you the straight answers that they have without interference. And once all these businesses had to be contacted, then interviews set up with the business owners. Once all this was done, all the information was compiled, and the U of M took it, did an analysis of it, and found, I believe it was 5 different areas that the city was lacking as far as issues. They identified what do they call it? Somewhere like red issues that needed to be addressed immediately, like a massive pothole in the street, just for example, in front of a business. That could be done right away. Others that would take a little bit more time. In those 5 areas then, from that group of volunteers, we broke up a little bit, and people would volunteer to meet and assess those particular 5 areas.
Is that a public document where somebody could go look at those 5 areas and?
I'm sure we still have
I
all that
think
information.
if you.
It may not be on the city website. You may have to come in at City Hall.
But
I
if
mean,
you
it's a public document.
Yeah.
If you search business BRE and, boy, yeah, the time frame would be the tricky one.
Great. Yeah, I'm curious, I'd like to read just a summary of it, maybe not the whole thing.
I can
Right.
get that for you.
Oh, thank you.
The consultant, was it in the consultant's report, the AD voltage? Or is that
Yeah,
a
that-
different?
Yeah, the 80 voltage was a marketing study.
That's
that was
right,
done
sorry,
back in-
I'm mixing that up.
Prior to the BRE
Mhm,
program.
yeah.
I know that we had, and, you know, when Colleen was here, she started it. And when Stephanie continued it, we had an inventory of available lots that was for anyone, for any company that was interested in doing it. You know, the term shovel-ready is something that gets thrown around, right?
It means different things to different people.
Yeah. But that's one of the things that me as an old superintendent would say, when I was talking about how we have good soils here, you don't have to do soil corrections in East Bethel. If you do, you pick the wrong stinking site. Yeah, I mean, I think we've tried to, I've heard the talk that the city's not business friendly. Bull.
Yeah, call it back in the day, in the 80s and 90s, I believe that was the perception. And then early 2000s, that started to change. And-
There were changes, I mean, I think I was, there, from when I was on the council, there were changes that were made all the way through, and I think those changes have continued. I look at
Yeah.
how, I mean, I look at how easy it is to get a permit now, you know? Especially, you know, for housing especially. I mean, commercial is entirely different. But the city is not a detriment.
Yeah, the city's improved tremendously.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Well, I have
Anything else?
one more little question.
Yeah.
And you mentioned some of them, U of M, Connexus Energy and stuff, but does the EDA, can you tell me what outside economic resources you guys use? U of M, Connexus Energy, those kind of things for, and do you get funding? Do you get just assistance, that kind of thing? Do you know what I mean? Did I say that right?
One other source that we take advantage of is AC Red,
Yeah.
Anoka County Economic Development. And through the relationships with that, that is who reimbursed us for the internet study.
Right.
And there have been talks about other grants for the internet and a couple other things. So AC Red is a valued partner.
Great.
Yeah, we try to have synergy. How's that for a modern day buzzword? Yeah.
Good one. All right, that's all I've got. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you want to, whatever you want to do.
Brian, you
Hello,
start this time,
Jessica.
huh?
Hello.
Okay.
All right, Jessica, we're gonna go around clockwise with questions and I'll start.
Okay.
All right.
I guess Tom is.
Oh, sorry.
Were you gonna
Okay.
mix it
Steal
up?
your thunder.
Go ahead.
Jessica, why are you interested in becoming a member of the East Bethel EDA?
A year ago, well, in August of 2021, I retired. So I'm kind of in my new phase of life. During that time, I kind of happened to come to some meetings and attended some of the City of East Bethel events, and I thought, oh, this is great. In November of this year, I moved to the City of East Bethel, and I thought, well, okay, it's my civic duty. I can jump in and see what's available and asked what committees were available, what's the openings, and this one kind of struck a chord to me. So I thought I'd try. Here I am.
Okay.
Thank you.
So tell us about what you think your strengths and abilities would be to bring value to the EDA.
It's funny, I was just going through that in my head just a little while ago. My previous employer through the healthcare system I worked on, my director was very big on us individuals knowing what our strengths are. So we did a lot of those surveys. I did one through Gallup called the Strength Finders. The top 5 that I had were very interesting, but my favorite one was I'm a developer. I develop not only people around me, but anything I get involved with, I just throw myself in and develop. I find that I have great empathy towards struggles of different things that go on, but I also want to keep that individual part of that process going forward. So those were my favorite top ones of the Strength Finders.
All right.
Jessica, what issues are you most interested in pursuing or promoting as an EDA member?
I think East Bethel is very unique because of the 65 corridor. I think that produces a lot of opportunity, but there's so much more within this community that we have great resources of the water works, the parks, and different things that are around, so inclusive. The whole citywide system is nice. Not just one thing, but I know people focus on 65 and the development of that, but we have so much more within our community.
What is your vision of development activities in the city?
That's kind of a loaded question. In reading the past notes, I was a little confused to why we were looking at internet as an economic development. And then after it being explained to me, I understand the process. I lived in a rural area where we didn't have internet, trying to figure out different ways to get that. I understand from a business perspective when I worked on my job how important it was to have the internet and not just a weak internet. So grasp a holding of that was one of the things I have to remember, to keep my mind open and my ears open and explore all the different opportunities out there. So it's fairly new to me, the experience of what is out there and what I want to develop. So I don't really have one thing that I can say. Like I say, I feel like I'm a sponge. My new phase of life, I'm looking forward to something different, an opportunity of developing with whatever the city has in the direction that we're given at the time, because I think the time constraints of the economic of federal and state as well.
I appreciate that, because there's a lot of, just like the internet is always changing and access to it. I think so. Development within the city is kind of like that. Like, imagine if 65 broadens, how that might change, how we might be able to get more businesses in, things like this. And I just think there's a lot of opportunity on the horizon in a lot of different fronts. And so like you brought up, the ability to kind of expand your mind and think about it and just think about how this affects the other thing.
Correct, absolutely.
Thank you.
Do you feel that growth is necessary to sustain and expand the local economy and tax base in the city? Please explain your answer.
Well, it depends on what perspective you're looking at. If you're looking at a tax base and initiating revenue for your city, of course you want a business development, but also keeping, I think what's appreciative about the East Bethel is that you kind of have unique networks within the city structure of it. You've got the rural areas and you got the business districts and stuff, and you want them to support each other in that process. So yeah, you want a good, strong business development so you can get your tax base from that and still support the residential areas of your area.
Thank you.
I have the next question. Are there any local issues that could place you in a conflict of interest situation? For example, a situation in which you could be financially benefit by an EDA action on a specific topic?
No. Strong no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, tax increment financing is a tool that the city uses to assist in business development and recruitment. What are your thoughts on the city using that as a tool to attract businesses?
Again, I would have to say I would have to learn a little bit more about the process of that.
Okay.
It's kind of, I know from my job experiences and my personal experiences in having a house, I know what the tax base of all of that is like. And, you know, kind of tax proposal, it's going to go up. You know, I know that there's a calculation that they use for that, but I would have to learn more about that process.
Fair enough.
I know it's out there. I know people use it all the time, and how they come up with those numbers, I'm not familiar with.
All good. Thank you.
One of the goals of the EDA is to promote improved internet service in the city. What are your views on this matter?
Like I say, I lived in a rural area where we didn't have anything. So
Where did you,
I actually grew up in St. Francis, went through first through senior year in St. Francis High School. I moved towards St. Cloud, little township called Santiago Township, Minnesota. So it's a true farming community. I had 8 acres wrapped around me, no neighbors. So when the telephone company came through, they put the fiber optic a half mile down the road. They're not coming to my house. Unless I wanted to shell out the dollars. So you get kind of creative and looking for different things, from satellite to a beamed internet system to
McDonald's?
you got McDonald's. I moved to, eventually in 2019, I moved to St. Cloud, and I thought I had everything in the world, but that's a different internet system in St. Cloud, because now you've got a city that's, yeah, they charge a lot of money. They get you one way or another, but yeah. So I think it's important to have internet. That's our whole life is internet. I watch meetings on the internet. I do things on the internet all the time, so.
Businesses, I mean, that's how business is conducted now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I guess lastly, do you have any questions for us, or is there anything you would like to add?
What is the committee looking at me for? I mean, what can I be for you guys? Like I say, I feel like a sponge. I've always been interested to do different things. My limited experience of being on a board is through medical associations. The perk with that is that because I was in healthcare, I did deal with a lot of reimbursements through Medicare. Medicare is a federal legislative issue, and opportunities to go to Washington, D.C. and lobby for bills for supporting the individuals that I serviced. So I jumped full force into it and just loved it. I didn't have any experience at all, but I had the opportunity to go to congressional members and say, your constituents need your help. And within, I want to say 3 years, we got that bill passed, which was pretty rare that you get a bill lobbied that quickly. So it just shows the importance of the group that went together, grassroots, to do it. So I'm an eager learner.
Well, I think the fact that you don't have, I mean, you know, Julie's a commercial real estate broker, you know.
Tom
Tom
goes to work.
Tom makes, no, Tom, I mean, he's a, he works for, I don't know how to describe it. He worked for private college.
I work for a private college, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm a retired commercial construction superintendent.
And I do communications things.
Yeah.
Brian's a residential contractor. The fact that you don't have experience along economic development doesn't necessarily preclude you from not being qualified, because I mean,
Well, one of the strengths of any commission has varying views.
Diversity,
That's
along,
what I
yeah.
was gonna
Absolutely.
bring up.
Yeah.
And so as long as somebody is educated and can inform themselves, and it doesn't matter if you're new, we're all new to one commission at one time or another, you'll learn, and if you need help, have questions, come to City Hall. There's various employees here, Jack, and our future Community Development Director, a couple other people that will gladly sit down with you and talk over any questions that you may have on a topic. So, and then what we would want from you is your viewpoint.
So, why do we have interest in you? Because you had interest in us.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's,
Thank you.
I mean, I've been involved in city government from back in the mid-90s. And the person that recruited me to get involved, his whole shtick was, you're honest and you don't have an agenda. That's the most important thing that someone can have, is be honest and don't have an agenda.
I do have to admit, there was nobody telling me to do this. I came to this community and I want to be involved. And so I don't have an agenda other than I want to be involved. So I think that that's kind of where I'm coming at, so.
Oh,
Thank
we,
you
we
for-
like people that want to be involved.
Well, thank you for letting me explain myself and to be in front of you guys for your time.
All right. Anything else? Any other questions from anyone? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I have one question.
Sure.
When did you graduate from St. Francis?
81.
Okay, so, yeah.
Oh, yeah, what?
Uh, Did you know Steve or Don Gravedall?
You know, I don't remember.
So
too many
long ago.
people from-
Yeah, they're
And
both-
I never went to the class reunions or anything like that, so I
Okay,
think-
they were,
I think I grew up south of St. Francis, so I think the first house we lived in Oak Grove, and I think the second house might have been in Nelvin Township, so I'm not exactly sure of the borderlines over there. So.
I have a number of ex-teammates of mine that taught at St. Francis. They're,
Yeah,
at our age now, we're all retired.
I was going to say Gravedale was, I think, my social studies teacher.
Oh, the stories we could, I'll tell you. I have, but no, that's right, we said what happened there stays there. All I can say is that,
Good thing he's retired.
oh, can he run? For a big guy, those skinny little legs of his, he could fly.
All right. Back to business here. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, Jack, direction, are we voting now? Are we, what's the order? We're voting and then making a recommendation.
Yes, I provided you with a ballot if you wish to make the recommendation. Based on the interviews, if you want to go ahead and take the vote, turn those into Julie, she can tabulate those and make the announcement of the EDA's recommendation. Or if you feel like you need additional information, you can certainly request that, but we would hope you would come out with a recommendation
Okay.
tonight so we can take it to city council.
Okay. Does everyone have the information that they need to make a vote? Okay. All right.
I thought they were both good candidates.
Different perspectives, bringing different things to the commission. I totally
Yep.
agree. All right, just do a tally. the votes are in, and we are recommending Jessica Omen as our new member of the EDA Commission. So, Jack, this recommendation then goes to council, is that correct?
Yes, if you could put that in the form of a motion and vote on it.
Okay, excellent, yes. I will take a motion to support the appointment of Jessica Omen that we recommend to city council. Sorry, that's coming out choppy. That Jessica Omen be appointed to the East Bethel Economic Development Authority. I'll take a motion.
Can I amend it?
Absolutely, please.
Okay. To fill the seat vacated
Thank you.
by Dan Butler for a term which will expire on January 31, 2027.
Excellent. Any comments, questions?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you both
All right,
for
thank you.
coming and, yeah, that was,
And this will be presented to city council on January 23rd for their confirmation.
okay. All right, thanks very much. Next, item number 6, we've got our broadband report.
Most of the report that was in your packet is just kind of an overview of what we've discussed before. We've had discussions with AC Red regarding their application to deed for some grant funds. And we were informed by Greg Gillis, the AC Red director, that the county's grant application to deed for the border-to-border broadband accessibility program was not approved. This is not really a surprise, as there was $25 million and 130 applications for it, so it was very competitive. The county will be meeting in early May to determine the status of the fixed wireless strategy they adopted to serve the northern Anoka County municipalities. As part of their original consideration to install fiber, there were approximately $8 million set aside as local funds for that project. The county will begin discussion as to the use and allocation of these funds at their March meeting, with an anticipated decision by June as to their direction in dealing with the gaps in internet service in our part of the county. Mr. Gillis also informed us that the deadline for the county broadband grant program has been modified, and their $150,000 municipal grant had changed from requiring project expenditures by December 31st, 2023, to an indication of intent to participate in the program by this date. He also stated that fund expenditures would extend into 2025. And this gives us additional time to work with and coordinate with the county for their assistance in our efforts to improve our service in the city for those areas that are unserved or underserved. Staff is still exploring options to the possibilities of working with Midco on fiber projects that address needs at the neighborhood level. The 2 remaining items that have to be resolved are the designation of the county's reimbursement for the cost of our Finley broadband study as non-city funds, and a provision for a reason and means to address the procurement process for services with Midco for a public-private venture. So, again, at least we know where the county stands on their deed grant. We'll still continue working with them to see what they're going to do with some of the funds that they did have reserved. And hopefully they will still dedicate to that fixed wireless strategy, and be able to hopefully report to keep you informed at the next meeting as to where that's going. But it may be March before we actually know anything definitive on that.
Thank you. Any questions or discussions from the
Jack, are
EDA?
we essentially taking a two-prong approach then? Working with Midco on the specific properties that are, that we've discussed before, and then doing a fixed wireless with county broadband as a sort of piecemeal to building up towards something larger for the city and county? Would you characterize it somewhat differently?
I'm sorry, would you repeat the first part of
It's
the
like a
question, Tom?
two-prong approach to the internet problem, because Midco doesn't do the fixed
No,
wireless,
they don't
yeah.
do the fixed. I think what we were looking at, though, is if the county was gonna do the fixed, and it was gonna cover all those areas in the city that were unserved or underserved,
Mhm.
that might be the first step. in getting this, but still continue working with Midco, because I think we all agree that fiber is the long-term solution. Fixed wireless is somewhat of an interim solution. And even though fixed wireless may be designed to serve a neighborhood or an area, it's not always gonna reach everybody because of topography, tree coverage, vegetation, and other things like that. So I think it'd still be the two-pronged approach, but if the fixed wireless were available, that would be available where we could essentially get some service into these neighborhoods and areas with no cost to the residents. But if we go with the other thing, there would still have to be address the area of assessment or how the city was gonna cover their costs.
Good, thank you.
All right. Any other questions, thoughts?
Not a question, but more a thought. It is just kind of complex because everything is, I mean, it's changing so much because I don't know, like when we moved here and for the longest time we had the worst service through CenturyLink, and now we've gotten a bit better service, and it's better enough that now I'm like, huh. And you know, if you had to have a whole neighborhood vote on Midco coming to all of our homes, I'm sure some people would say, I don't have an interest in this, because you can't presume every house in the neighborhood would want, you know, or cares about the internet to the same degree. So it is kind of an intriguing thing, but I do think that us having limited options in this, I think it hurts our ability to get businesses coming in and get and facilitate other things. So it may, I mean, we may have to start somewhere and move up, you know. It isn't, I mean, it just gets a bit more complex in a rural community, I think. So.
Well, and you know, we've all heard the advantages and the disadvantages of fixed wireless. And I think probably for residential service, at least in the interim or the intermediate or the short run, it may be a very viable option. I think for the corridor improvements, and there's not that many areas that really have a lack of service there, but improvements are always going to be necessary because the demand for higher speeds is always going to increase. Is that fiber is really the answer for that area. And hopefully we can get fiber to some of the other areas too, because fixed wireless to some extent is going to depend on fiber, so it can broadcast its own signal. So I think the two go hand in hand, and we have to look at both options.
All right, thank you. If nothing else, the next item is the business activity report, item 7.
Thank you, Julie. I'm just going to go over a couple of these to update them. One, the Hidden Pines preliminary plat for a 10-lot residential development was approved by the Planning Commission on December the 27th, 2022, and City Council on January 9th, 2023. The final plat will be presented to City Council sometime at their next meeting or sometime hopefully in February. The Holiday Station store site plan review has been completed, and it's hoped the demo and new construction should start in the spring of 2023. Holiday has submitted some information on getting a demo permit and some other site plan information. There's some outstanding questions they have to answer, which they're in the process of getting us that information. One unfortunate development is the Thistle and Ivory business that's located on Highway 65 will be relocating to Cambridge. Their 1,696 square feet retail building, completely remodeled in 2021, went on the market on the week of January the 9th, 2023. I think the owners actually live in Cambridge, and they're going to go in the old Ben Franklin store. I think one of the things with that is the city of Cambridge has a downtown business revitalization program where they're able to offer certain incentives or low interest loans to businesses that will relocate in those areas. And it just didn't work out for that location, but that means that there's another business or another building that's available for another business. Brian mentioned this a little bit in his discussion in some of the interviews about the commercial and light industrial lot mapping and inventory. We're going to go back and update what we have. Aaron's gonna start on that here very soon, and we'll update where we left off. We haven't probably updated that in a year and a half or so, and we wanna have that current, and we've talked with Greg. He's looking forward to get it too. It'll be a tool for him and a tool for us to help market many of the sites we have in the city.
Great, yeah, I talked to him about that as well.
Yeah.
And offered a couple different resources that they could use, and, okay, excellent.
And so that's all I have for the business development report.
Thank you. Any questions?
One other item of interest too is the applications for the community development director.
Ah, yes.
We received 5 of those. City council did recommend that we suspend the application for 30 days and then re-advertise that. We'll re-advertise that position next week, close the applications the end of February to see if we can get a few more candidates. We just want to make sure we do everything we can to get the best possible candidate for that position.
Okay. Thanks for that update.
Jack, the city's ever had hunting firms?
To my knowledge, East Bethel has not. For some cities, it's a practice for administrators or some department heads. I've thought about this, and I've been approached by several people about using this as a tool to attract somebody. I would prefer not to go that direction unless we just had to, because I would like to find somebody that's more local, that understands the area, than bring somebody in from the outside.
Oh, I agree, local, but
Local means.
Minnesota.
Yeah, or within,
Or
this 7
western
or 8 county
Wisconsin.
area, central Minnesota. Somebody that's familiar with our culture, our geography, and the lay of the land. So that's a possibility we could use. The period we use for the advertisement, which is December during the holidays, is not always the ideal time to do so. So hopefully this next round of re-advertisement will produce some other candidates, so we'll have a little broader pool for selection.
Yeah, I was not advocating it, I was just curious.
Yeah.
I mean, they do it for college football coaches.
Yes.
They've got the funds for that.
Yeah, but then they make more money than.
Right. All right, item 8, city council report.
Good evening, everybody. Jack touched on a couple of these. The Hidden Pines preliminary plat was approved, and the Elvidge second edition was approved. We approved the 2023 budget. Maynard Peterson Park, that's the city park down by Coon Lake as you first drive into Coon Lake Beach area. That is the new home for the Minnesota Smoke softball, youth girls softball. It makes a good fit for them as they are sponsored, one of their big sponsors is Smokies.
All right.
So, good to see that park being used. It was, as generations go through a neighborhood, you have kids and then no kids. And lately, that ball field had been kind of unused and fell into, I won't call it disrepair, but it wasn't 100%. So this is a perfect opportunity for them to take care of this, and they are donating funds to help fix the park up for their use. So
Great.
we're
Good news.
getting a lot of good deal out of that.
How old did you, how old?
It's girls youth softball. I believe it's 12 through 16, 17. I
Okay.
think there's two youth groups of it too. And so,
So this is separate from SAA?
yes. Yeah, they're a traveling softball league, so they
Okay.
go down to Iowa, they go over to Wisconsin.
Kind of like an
they-
AAU team?
Yeah, traveling team.
Yeah.
So,
Great.
the public forum is back in the agenda starting at our next meeting, so anyone that wants to come. The fire department is having a breakfast. It's one of the fun times of the year, one of the fun events to come to. It's always constantly been a great time. That breakfast is at Station 1 on Viking Boulevard. It'll be on January 28th from 8 to 11. Depending on weather, there may be the Lifelink helicopter there.
Okay.
So that's always impressive to
Mhm.
see it land and take off. And if you've never been around a helicopter when it lands, it's rather windy.
Mhm.
The movies don't exaggerate when it blows people over. And then talking on the BNRE program, I was having the same thoughts of maybe we should revisit that. It's
Yeah.
been some time, and I was thinking maybe just shooting some ideas out. Just have a kind of a mini BNR
Mhm.
program, and it could be as simple as once a month, invite 10, 15 businesses to coffee and donuts and have questions prepared and have a talk, revisit with them, see if they have any issues, get feedback from them.
I think that's a great idea.
So it could be something as simple as that, just to
Right.
show the businesses that we're here, we want your opinions, we
Mhm.
want to help improve you, we want to be your partner.
Is that something that the council would do then, maybe with the EDA support, or how do you see that executed?
I personally, I don't know. I've
Okay.
just thought I'd
But
bring
good
it
to
up as
start
a
talking about it.
possible option, and
Mhm.
I don't know, maybe at our next CDA meeting, we could expand upon that.
I think that'd be a good thing to explore. We can have a discussion here and make some recommendations.
Sure. Yeah, maybe if you could pull up, we can pull up the information, what our different committees were and what the outcome was, and if we think it's worth, which ones, I don't know, do we do them all, or do we choose which ones? I know one of them was a broadband study,
Yeah.
so that really developed into what we're working with today, so maybe there's something new too.
Mhm. But-
Yeah, good idea.
So, and with that, that is all I have. I think before we visit next, so Valentine's will have passed, so happy Valentine's Day to everybody.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
You as well, thank you. And if there's nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Just get a tickle of the last.